back to the Unlimited Mindset Radio, where we talk about leadership, business, entrepreneurship, personal growth, mental health, and everything in between. What my guest finds fascinating and I really respect, and what I think will make a positive impact in this world and around us. We go live with solo episodes and fireside chats, and today I'm bringing you an amazing guest, Andrew Eggelton. Andrew is the founder of Redefining World-Class Presenting. Yes, and guess what it is all about? But at least what Andrew does, it's all about helping leaders take and just being them. It's not easy, right? We haven't learned from home and school just being you, because we are learned to conform. But actually, Andrew has discovered a framework for just how being you. And in our conversation, Andrew talks about his childhood, and then one day asked what he has done a lot of stage performance. He was asked to just be you. He told the story that one day he said, just because how you showed up last time was just really amazing. And Andrew started to wonder, but what does it mean to just be you, and who am I when I'm just me? And I think that's kickstarted Andrew's journey, and also just being you was a cornerstone in our conversation. And I have so many notes from our conversation, but want to highlight that be authentic in your journey. Be you. Don't pretend that you are happy when you're not happy. Don't pretend you are running with overflow of energy when you actually come from lack and you're really tired, because your audience will pick up. And it's what Andrew also talks about. It's about the energy. If your words just do not match your energy, your audience will pick up. So whatever your message, show up and be so authentic, because the more you do that, the better an influencer you are, like the key person of influence, not an influencer. I don't think we want to be that in this room, at least. But just honor yourself, right? Honor yourself. And what else do I want to share? Andrew said that his way to find his journey to just be you, he modeled a teacher, and that was a teacher who created a space filled with love, fun, and it was really safe. And the safer we feel, the more relaxed we are, and the deeper conversation. So that's an invitation to you as well, to create that room. If no one else creates that for you, create that room where you feel so comfortable. And what else do I want to share before just opening the floor? There's another one, right? How do you give words life? I love that when Andrew mentioned that. So it's about embodying your message. Give life to your words, and you will hear that's when Andrew talks about it, like sitting home with the blankets and a nice hot chocolate in the hand, like you can really feel that you're home. And I really love that. Give words life. So I think with this, enjoy the conversation. Hi, Andrew. Welcome to the Unlimited Mindset Show. How are
really
you?
Nice to be here from the other side of the world, about as far away as you can get.
Exactly. So where are you based, Andrew?
I'm based in Queensland, so it's the sunshine state of Australia.
And I'm based in Copenhagen, Denmark. So it's about like a 24 hours flight.
Minimum, and I just did it.
Yes. And I'm super excited to have you on the show today. And as I mentioned, as I reached out to you, I was intuitively guided and led to invite you into a fireside chat. Because, my body's responding now. What you're up to in this world, Andrew, resonates so deeply with what I am up to. And those amazing women I serve are being authentic about just being you. It's not so easy, just being you in corporate. But those I serve have come to that plateau in their careers where They're ready to unleash the full potential. They're ready to just really allowing themselves to be themselves. And as I just get to have a chat with you because I think you know something that I know my audience is longing for. They don't even know. They're longing for what you know. So welcome, Andrew.
I'm happy to share. I'll be guided by your questions. I know you're very good at asking these questions and guiding us, so I'm going to leave it all in your hands.
Thank you. So I always start these talks with the backstory, your origin. I'm always curious about what led you to who you are today, about really trusting yourself. You've got the freedom, right? So tell me about, exactly. I was like, who's that? What is that?
And joy, freedom and joy.
You know, that's when we are into spirituality and personal growth, freedom and joy and gratitude, the highest feeling, some of the highest feelings we can ever want. And I think everyone, and I'm going a bit off, but everyone deep down longing for more joy in life, longing for freedom, but we hardly dare to say it. So, but with this, tell me your backstory, your upbringing, and where you are today. How did you land where you are?
Okay, I'll try not to bore your listeners while I'm sharing the story. So I'm just going to give the interesting pieces, or that I think relevant. I grew up in a tiny place in the middle of the South Island, New Zealand. So just think cold, but you'd understand. You get cold. And my father was my principal and school teacher, and there was 8 people at the school. So it was farmland. There was no shops, no service station. It was just farmland. And actually the school is closed now, unfortunately. And from there I moved eventually up to a place called Christchurch. And it's a little bit of a bigger city, about 350,000, I think. And I got into about 1994. A girlfriend at the time got me into modeling, which I'd never thought of before. But I look back on hindsight and realized that I was actually far more onto it than you give yourself credit. And there's a naivety, and I think you have to give yourself credit for that. I must have really wanted it, and I worked hard, because it's not really easy. So I got my first gig, and it was actually a German beer TV commercial, a German beer TV commercial. And I think I got paid about $3,500 as a 20-year-old, and which is a lot of money for a 20-year-old, right? And I obviously was sold and thought, wow, if I can make that kind of money, and all I had to do today was pretend to drink beer and drink water out of a fountain with somebody else, this is a good gig. And that just kept me moving. And I was hungry. I worked hard. I used to ring up the university in Christchurch, and I would get student photographers I would work with them to get pictures. I would ring the film department. And as I got hungrier from the modeling part and started going, well, if I'm working on TV, maybe I need to understand the craft of acting a little bit more and work on my voice, the craft of things. It's funny explaining this to you, because they're all very deliberate decisions, but I'm struggling to understand them from memory, of like, isn't it funny when you look back and you go, well, why did I do that? Why was that such a strong pull of, if you want to be a speaker, what does a speaker look like? It's, you get a speaking coach, you get a dialect coach, you do the things that a speaker does, and all of a sudden, oh look, I'm a speaker. So I did that from an acting point of view. So I was constantly ringing, people who had camera gear at university, the film students, and doing short films. And I was a terrible actor. It's not something that came naturally to me. It wasn't. Some people are born performers, and I was a good performer. My mother come from a TV background and performance background. She was one of the people that helped bring aerobics into New Zealand from overseas.
Mhm.
And she was like the South Island aerobics champion for multiple years. And she was also on a TV, a reality show back in the 70s and 80s called Top Town. And towns around New Zealand went into battle on these random, like a I'm just trying to think of how to explain it, but lots of challenges. What would you look at it now? Like Gladiator. I don't know if people watch you have Gladiator over
I
there, but
have at
something,
least in.
yeah, so something similar to that. And so I feel like that was, for me, was a little bit normalized. But for me to choose to pursue the acting and things, yeah, I can't tell you what the real pull was, except I started acting lessons, and I started a few elocution lessons because my R's sounded like W's. So I was like wabbit or rabbit, and I couldn't form those R's properly. So I was like, well, I'm gonna have to sort that out before I get any better or more opportunities. And then from there, I made the jump to Auckland, which was the biggest city in New Zealand. I started acting classes up there. Someone introduced me through someone who became like an amazing mentor of mine. I did his acting classes for about 10 years, consistently for 10 years. And it's really interesting because the way that he teaches or taught, I see so many parts of me. I was going to use the word copying, but it's modeling from that. His classes were always fun. They were always full of love. They were always very safe. And I bring that when I do my events and work with people. So there's a spark of joy. I'm doing something that I love, and I entertain the people that I'm working with. And I love that, meaning that there's keeping it fun and light. And so and then being able to guide them or bring the best out of them, even though standing up in front of people can be a very terrifying thing to do. I feel like I model my acting teacher. And those classes, although sometimes very terrifying and scary, you'd overthink it going into the week that you knew you had to do a scene. You knew that everyone in that room wanted you to win, and he was always going to make you better by the time you walked out. So I modeled that. And he taught me some really valuable things that I still use in my teachings today. And probably one of the primary thing is he used to speak about indicating. Now, indicating for an actor is when you're forcing or trying to show the audience how you feel. So a bad actor, you can tell that they're not really upset, but they're trying to show you on the external that they're upset. So they're modeling what upset looks like, or what they believe it looks like. And you know what's really interesting? He would have started teaching me that in 1998, 99. That penny only dropped in the middle of nowhere. I was doing a TV show in Melbourne, and the penny only dropped in the middle in 2017. And I just had this epiphany, went, oh my God, I know what indicating is. I know what indicating is. I get it. And I rang him up and I hadn't spoken to him for years. And he was in tears laughing. He goes, how long did that take you? That took you nearly 18 years.
But sometimes things takes time to cultivate before you really understand them and start to embody them, right?
Well, because it's such a big part of my teaching, and I will call it projecting. But I guess I married the two of them. I was like, oh my God, they're the same thing. So projecting is when you're trying to give the audience or show the audience what you believe they want to see. And it's very typical of human beings because 80% of us want to be liked. We're relationship focused and not so task focused. So, which is the downfall of a speaker or God in a meeting in this where you try to project what what you think you're meant to be, instead of going, what does just be you look like right now?
I love that. So just
I've so deviated off my career and how I got there, but I feel like it was a good deviation. I'm going to cut this little part short. When I was in Auckland, I had what I would call now, in hindsight, beginner's luck. I worked on a movie with Peter Jackson and Michael J. Fox. That was like my first little thing, tiny little part, but it got my foot in the door. I had a really good part with Ryan Gosling on a TV series called Young Hercules. That was being shot with Xena and Hercules in New Zealand, and that he was fresh out of Mickey Mouse Club, and he was exceptional back then. He was a very confident, charismatic. He just carried himself differently already, like, because he had craft. And then I got a job on a TV series called Shortland Street, which is a medical drama, primetime medical drama in New Zealand, and that was one, two, three times I got a role on that show, with the last time being the longest and biggest role. And I was sold. And then I was like, okay, this is my career. I can do this. But my main passion was always presenting. That's what I wanted to do. But by this time, I had momentum in acting. And so acting was taking, the access to acting was easier, meaning there was lots of acting teachers. I couldn't really find presenting teachers or that kind of thing. It was just easy to find a good acting teacher. Lots of people were into acting, and it was a group training all the time, or every week. And again, TV presenting didn't come naturally to me. It didn't come naturally. And this is how bad my first experience was. I hounded this producer of a TV show for like, I think 3-4 years. Like, I was always on this. I was ringing him up. This is before mobiles. I would just ring the studio, and it was a music show. And this is when, in the late 90s, but it was when music shows were kind of new. And I hounded him, and he auditioned me a couple of times, and and again, with the benefit of hindsight, you realize I actually wasn't very good, was it? I was pretty bad. But in my head, I felt like I could do it. And so he was smart enough to finally yield and say, okay, you're gonna be on this show, but I'm pairing you up with this lady called Miranda. And I thought, and this is the trap, I thought that this was my big break, right? And I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I thought that I had to have everything prepared. And it was in my head, I was like, the world is about to see how good I am, which is naivety. This is the naive part, right? And I went in and I kind of rehearsed everything that I was going to say, which doesn't work like that, hosting a show, because you got to work off your co-presenter. That's co-presenting. Work off who else is there and ask questions, and then hand it over, throw her the ball, or pass, and then you'll receive something back and work from there. And if you're relaxed enough and you have a sense of craft, you'll be able to work with whatever's there or hold the silence. And I could do neither. And so everything I said was premeditated. So whatever she said, I had this premeditated thing to say, which of course had nothing to do with what she was saying. So it was a slow train wreck. And I think about 10-15 minutes into it, she started crying live on, and this is live on air, by the way. This is live, going out on live national TV. And she started crying on set because it was her show, and I was destroying it. And then she couldn't hold the tears back, and she ran out of the set, out of the studio, never to be seen again. And I was left holding the show, going, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. Where do I go from here? Until the director goes, cut there. We'll take a commercial break. And that was it. And that was my last time ever invited to that show. And that was also, it showed me that I had a long way to go. A long way to go.
And just as a short, because I know I have a lot of questions to ask, right? But thanks, that was really interesting. I took some notes, so I think we can work on that as well. We'll talk about that. But from that experience to where you are today, just in one like shortcut, what happened?
Practice. And actually, here's the key, is knowing what to practice. Because if you don't know what to practice, how can you practice? And so I was getting really good advice from people who knew, and then doing what they told me to do, even though no matter how weird or silly it felt, I would do it and hold myself to it. And then I got a couple of breaks, because I'd got myself into a position where I was natural enough on camera that I could Andrew could come across, and if Andrew was available for the audience to see, I had a better chance of winning people over, instead of me pretending to be someone that I wasn't. And I did a documentary in Cambodia. And I coached the Cambodian rugby team for a few months, and I had a camera crew follow me on that whole journey. And because I had a camera crew all the time, and they became such good friends in that time, they just shaped me. They just talked to me about what I could do, what was available to me. They wanted me to win. They wanted me to get better. So I started to understand, not just from my side, but from what they needed. And therefore, that thinks that when you know what they need and what I have to deliver, you can start collaborating. And you start to collaborate. It's more of a collaboration than.
Just hold on, hold the space here. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for sharing. We have some chats before this, but thanks so much for trusting me and for taking us through your journey. It's so inspiring. I do have a few questions, but I just really want to double down on some of the things that you said. There's a few words, because that's what I've learned as well, is to model other people who maybe have a lifestyle, maybe show up as the way I really wanted to show up. And those who come into my community, and probably also you, they see something in you that they like. And you said that your model, my body's responding now, and that's doubling down on this, because that's where I see also is a challenge. I'm curious about your perspectives when you help leaders stand in their power and be authentic. It's like, you were modeled by the teacher, and he created a space full of love, full of fun, and it was safe.
Yes.
Right? Mention that.
Yeah.
And this is really like, my body's responding now. It's like, and he had this, his secret sauce that's what I really pulled out. He wanted you to make you better.
Yeah.
That is, I cannot speak for the entire corporate pharma life science industry, but I've been in long enough in corporate to not having witnessed many leaders who actually show up and helping you be a better version of yourself.
Yes.
That is my passion, and because I've seen enough where, may I say, toxic people who challenge within, how that challenge everyone else around. I am curious about love, fun, safe. How do you weave that into your program? May I hold the space for me? So that your students could be my clients, because we come from a place where it's all about performance. It's all about metrics. It's all about delivering, boom, tick the box. And what's next? It's all about the how. It's very seldom about the why and the what.
It's funny because that's words I just wrote down. Why, what, when. Literally, when you would have seen me scribbling. Yeah, and that's modeling. That's what am I modeling? Why am I modeling it? And then so I can use it whenever I want. So you have to know, okay, what is that thing you're doing now? What's that? This is what I'm doing, and this is why I'm doing it, and this is when you would use it. And now let's work on it so you can use it whenever you want or whenever you need. So it's important for me when I work that the people around me can model off me, so that's the best for me. That's the best leadership. Is it's not just say what I say, it's model off me. I've worked on these things that I'm asking you to do, so you can model off it. But then of course the end game is that they're comfortable enough using them that they start to make them their own. It's like they find their own nuances and subtleties within their delivery, and you can see them.
I love that.
Mm.
In that process, I just really following my intuition here. In that process, what is the biggest challenge maybe you have seen in your own journey of embodying love, fun, and space, and creating that safe space? And how do you help then your students to embody this? Because it's not something that we embody. I know there's some stacking questions here, but what's the biggest challenge in modeling from someone? Does that make sense?
I think it's hard. Look, I'm just going to use public speaking or presentations as my example. It's the thing that I think I know best for me.
Sure.
It's hard to model of something that appears to you to be very mundane or not exciting. So what I look at, you get to a point where you're like, I don't just want to do this well. There's a sense of, I believe that I've reached a point of mastery, and after 30 years, you'd hope so. And the penny dropping that I might have reached that place was not that long ago. It was about the year 26 when I realized that I knew nothing. That was my epiphany. I realized, oh wow, I actually know nothing. I'm beginning every day. Every day I'm getting up, and if craft is an infinite piece of rope, I'm going, well, how far down this rope can I get in this lifetime? But you get to a point where you go, I don't want to be good. Like, how do we start redefining what world-class looks like? How do we start redefining what this looks like, instead of this tried and true recipe that I can tell most people find very boring and overly technical? So what is the experience you want to have was what I started off with first. What's the kind of experience do I want to have? And then let's work backwards on building the building blocks, the tools to have that, enable that experience. I needed to write that down.
I'm writing it down.
Oh, sorry.
No,
That's
just
it.
Come.
So if you're not excited by what you're seeing, or you're being told to do in a craft or anything, you're just going, God, this is just it's not exciting me. What you struggle to be passionate, and if it can't light that flame within, you really need to find someone or that lights that flame, that is doing it a way that guides you, or is a stepping stone to the experience that you want.
This is deep.
Yes.
That's, and it really, I listened to a meditation preparing for our conversation this morning. It was all about And I think it resonates with you. In case people are not on the journey that we are yet, or just embarked on it, it's all about where you want to go next, and starting from the end, right? And that's what you say, what experience do you want to have? And it's just about light moment. It's always start from the end, but where I've been myself for like 20 years in corporate, and what I help my clients with, and probably yours as well, is that we've been trained to do the how, to deliver. But well, if we want to design our life, we want to know where we want to end.
Yeah.
And not the how, because as I think that's one of my mentors, like Mira Golden says, you get to go somewhere. The question is just where. And you exactly said the same, right? What's the experience you want? And we just really want to connect those two, because it's so powerful, that way of thinking and doing, starting from the end. Then embodying that. What is showing up for you as I share this?
Yeah, well, I agree. If you've got the experience, it means you can be moved by it. You like the experience for me is, how do I feel when I'm presenting? What's the feeling? And I'll start to, I always imagine things. I'm that person who listens to music, and I'm always the lead singer. No matter if it's Metallica or In Excess, or it doesn't matter. Somehow I end up the lead singer, and and so that's the experience. And if it's a guitar solo, all of a sudden I end up on the side of the stage, and I'm doing the guitar solo. So I always imagine moving people. Like I'm the one that's moving people.
I love it.
And so when I'm speaking, like, then same thing is, how am I moving people? What tools do I need to move people? So one of them is the voice, and it's a super powerful tool. The other thing is that level of authenticity creates the depth of connection. If energy is information and you're not authentic, then the information that the audience is receiving is distorted. It's not real. It's your performance, which is very I'm going to say shallow, but two-dimensional, or you know what I mean? It's paper thin, instead of, when you're authentic, there's a depth, a mysteriousness about it.
And just hold the space. I'm curious. How do you, so it's become very natural for you to just be who you are. Whereas I have had to do a lot of masking off, allowing me and giving myself the permission to be me, and not actually fearing of being rejected or not conforming to other people's opinions of how I should show up.
I think that's always there.
I've been doing a lot of inner work, a lot of saying, allowing myself to be me. And I think most of the people on this planet are not aware that they can give themselves the permission to be themselves. And those who are on this amazing personal reconnecting journey, maybe I'm not discovering, because we're always discovering, right? Then how do you help people connect with themselves and teach them and embody the craft of energy? Because energy is so underrated, but so important.
That's the easy part. That's the part I find really simple. So when I work with people, let's say the London event I just did on September 28th. When people come up and work, the first thing is they can be nervous, but I have created a room that feels good. You know what I mean? But there's always an apprehension, because we have this expectation, we want to be good. And I remove that expectation by either humor or just, it's like, you start where you start. My job is just to get you better each time we work. Just get you a little bit better. That's my job. Don't you worry about it. You just do you, and I'll share with you what to do. So there's nothing ambiguous. I'll just give it. You just keep doing what I tell you. and you'll see the natural progression. You actually, so you don't have to do anything. That's what I take away from people. You don't have to do anything. I'll guide you all the way. So then it's, if I can't feel it, what they're saying, it's off. Something's off. So my job then is, I'm going to give an example of what I might do, although I'm giving away my secrets here, so people will see me coming now, is I'll just stop them, or they'll finish naturally, and I'll ask a question, and it might be, oh, I was just thinking, whereabouts in England are you from? Where's your accent from? And they might say from the north or this, and I go, okay. And when did you move to London? All right, and how many people in your school that you went to? And I start guiding them into other things, right? And you go, okay, who were you close to, your mom or your dad, when you were a kid? And they go, oh, definitely my mom. I was like, what were things that you used to do? I used to love making little pastry men, and it was funny making the pastry men with my mum, because I'd be up on a little box, and it was just the leftover pastry from a pie, and I'd always put, and it would make mum laugh, I'd always make little penises on the little pastry men, and it would make mum laugh. And then I'd go, what did you do? And they were like, oh, I'm just going to use an example. I used to love baking on a Sunday with mum. I'm just using this example. And then they get lost in that. They get lost. There's no need to pretend. There's no projection anymore, because they're in a place with me where the rest of the room has disappeared, and it's just us two now. And we're having fun, and we're talking about something that's fun, and that emotion of that memory. And then I'll go, I love it. Now start again. Mm-hmm. And they start from here. And the energy is grounded, and it's them. They're them. And the difference is, I'm moved, I can feel it. And you can tell every single person in the audience, because I always look and people are going, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. They're nodding their heads. Mm. And nearly every time when someone speaks the first time up, or even the second time, there's nothing happening in the room. It's dead energy. It's just dead. There are words being spoken. Someone might be explaining what they do, but no one's really listening. You know, it's like I'm just watching someone speak at me. We move into that place of there's something happening in this room right now. That speaker is occupying that space, and they're owning it. They're not surrendering it back over.
I love that. I love that. Occupying the space. I take the room, but occupying the space, and that movement and the voice, and being so present. Yeah. And I think here, what really also resonated with me and those I work with is that's the most difficult part, being corporate and going up to pitch for the C-suite or whatever, right?
Very, very
it's not to pretending.
Yeah. You want conversational reality. You want it. It's just like we're having a conversation, and this is what I'm about to explain to you. Yeah. And it's conversational reality.
I love that. So what could be one of your guiding stars when you are in a room with strong voices?
Just reframe that question.
Yeah. So if I'm in a room with a strong voice, at least I'm in a room with a lot of strong voices, but I no longer dim my light. I know that I'm worthy enough to be in the room, but previously I gave away my control to those strong voices, and I would play small, and I wouldn't come across as a confident Camilla. And I would actually have left the room and say I wouldn't even have delivered my message. And if I had delivered my message, I'd been really nervous, and nobody would have trusted me or believed in me. And I wouldn't have told where we want to go next. And I would really think, what of my brand, my power, and all that stuff. What could be a tool you could give our listeners when you are in a room with powerful or strong voices and you don't come from a place of really trusting yourself and allowing yourself to be in the room?
So it's a really good question. When we talked about occupying space before, the follow-up to that is then not surrendering it. So you've got to occupy space and then not surrender it. And the hard part about not surrendering it is the energies change in a room, and whether that be a strange look from somebody, or someone might say something to somebody else that's distracting, or just the energy, you can feel a change in the room. It's easy to hand the space back over, and you get in your head. So there's a couple of tools that I use. The first one is there's an understanding of, if I know how to do what I do, meaning if my job is to present in this situation, do I have the tools to use my voice in a way that is commanding and assertive and seductive? I like the word seductive. It's seductive. You can seduce powerful people, or insecure people. It's a seduction using your voice and the pace and the tones and the feeling words. There's a craft to using your voice. So when you feel confident in that, then there's a sense of confidence that when I speak, people enjoy listening. Does that make sense? And I also, to become more assertive, I started removing the tonality of my questions. So instead of going, "Would you like an ice cream?" it'd be like, "Would you like an ice cream?" It's assertive. I want you. I'm really offering you an ice cream, instead of like, I'm a little bit unsure. And that came from the same show where I had the epiphany about indicating, the penny drop after 18, 19 years. And there was a man on the panel with me. And when he spoke, I really listened. I was like, wow. And then we were speaking on the same subject. And then I like watching the monitor. I go, after a take, I go look at the monitor and I go, okay, what am I doing? How can I improve? What are the little nuances that, am I doing something? Am I focusing? And when I was listening to the playback, I went, God, I sound like a child next to this person. I sound like a kid. And this is 2017, just not that long ago.
No.
And this is after voice lessons and learning these things. So I went, I need to learn how to model whatever it is that you're doing. I need to know what that is. And so I'm going to find out. So I asked him if I could have a call with him. This was Christmas 2017. And it was a really quick call, because I went, his name was Andrew as well. I went, Andrew, what is the difference between when you were my age and your age now? Because when you spoke, I listened to you, like you commanded my attention. And he said, oh, that's easy. It's so easy, Andrew. I just believe what I say now. And I went, oh, okay. So, but I can't model that. So what am I going to model here? What am I going to work on every single day? And I'm really big on these little Post-it notes. As you can see, I have tattooed many words in my body, and I realized Post-it notes are a lot easier and cheaper and less permanent. So I wrote on a piece of paper, on a Post-it note, embody. And I just had that on my desk I think in the bathroom, and just by light switches, so I was always reminded. And what it did was I embodied every word that came out of my mouth. I was giving that word life. And so I was choosing how I wanted it to sound, and that it was very intentional that I'd said this word. So I gave it life.
How do we give it life?
Words are opportunities. My words are opportunities. The word wait needs to feel like there's a weight to it. The word love needs to feel like love. Word home should feel like a warm blanket with a fire on and a red wine or a cup of tea, whatever it is tickles your fancy. Mountain is an opportunity. So if I'm being intentional about all the words that I'm choosing, I get to give them all life and love and energy. And the how starts to shape the what. So when it becomes your new normal to be intentional when you're speaking, and you're not overthinking it, meaning the craft is doing the work for you, you start to choose better words because they have more opportunity. So you stop using the ambiguous or fluff words because I want this sentence to have impact. And so if I'm presenting or I'm pitching or if I'm in a room and I'm in a powerful room, it's like, yeah, but I've got a really good voice. And when I speak, they're going to listen to me. I know they're going to listen to me because I can engage them and keep their attention because the brain craves novelty. And if my voice is novel and I'm choosing how they're receiving my words, I choose that. It's not just words for the sake of words. I'm choosing how my words sound for them to hear. That keeps people engaged. And so that took about, that Post-it note took 3 months for me to eliminate my words like kind of, sometimes maybe, it's a little bit like, it's a bit like this. I'm like, no, it either is or it's not. So there was a more an assertive, definitive. I slowed down. I started to enjoy the space between the words.
Okay.
And I moved my voice down into my body. So my body spoke, not just here.
Tell me more.
So I'm not speaking from my head, which is where most people speak. It's in here. Over time, I've dropped I feel like my body says or expresses the word. It's not just I'm in here, which sounds very heady. And when I hear someone with the tonality that goes up or sounds unsure or very heady, for me, that's indicating to me that they're not present or they're not grounded while I'm speaking to them. So my first job would be to ground them and bring them home, so to speak. Then when they're listening and present, we can have a conversation. Was that too much? It was a long passage.
No, it's not too much. So I do it, I teach it, I help my clients. But those who may be listening from your audience, we don't know where they're tuning in from. But this is so powerful.
So how I speak now, I can't remember how I spoke back then. And I watch videos of old stuff and go, wow, that's like a different, but I couldn't speak like that now if I tried, because it's not natural, it's not me. So people go, yeah, but I don't want to lose my voice. And you go, well, you don't. You just have a better voice. And it becomes you. It's huge. So I remember I did a tour of Australia about April, May that year, 2018. So 4 months down the track. And in the first 2 cities, 2 people came up to me afterwards and said exactly the same thing. They were like, oh my God, you're so different now. And I was like, oh, what? Like what? And they were like, it's like you believe what you're saying now. It's like, oh my God, bingo. That's what I'm after. They couldn't have given me that was like the best compliment they couldn't have given me. I'm like, I've worked 4 months on this. Yeah.
And that's what's so interesting. I told from you for brain, I talk about head, being in my head rather than speaking from my body and speaking from my heart. And I can feel now when I'm in my head, then I'm not in flow states. But I'm really just allowing myself to be so present. I'm not into how perfect is the words I'm saying right now, but it's really following and tuning into my guidance. Then I'm really, really present. And I love that. I feel a lot of viewers can learn from this. It's so profound. And what you said also, I think that's also that's an amazing journey ahead of us, a movement about being so intentional with how we show up and the words that we choose, because then you say, and I think it was so beautiful, the words become you.
The words become you, yes, yeah, and the how starts to shape the what, or influence. The how influences the what. The how you say it influences the what words you choose.
And then suddenly we give power to the how.
Yes. Yep.
And not the why, maybe the why in the beginning, but suddenly the why, the what, how has so much more power, but a different power rather than the operational power. But the image, the feeling, the embodiment of what we want to convey, that end state is the how.
Yep. Yeah. So presenting it's a feeling. It's not a doing. So you were bang on with what you were saying. Is you are aware when it's not real or not working, and it doesn't feel right, and you come back. And pretty much that is, that's my first step of, how do you just be you on stage or in your presentations or in interactions? And it's taking ownership, so that the idea of authenticity is far more sexy than the reality. And people struggle to let go of what they have, because they want to be authentic. It's a good idea in principle, but the reality can be too much for some, especially if they've built a great performance that is now their signature. So before I go on stage, this is just how I just be you. Before I go on stage, I ask myself, how am I feeling right now? How am I? Like, being honest, don't bullshit yourself. How do I feel? I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit fuzzy in the heads, or a bit cloudy, or I'm a little bit agitated, or I'm a little bit frisky, whatever, melancholic, whatever you're feeling. I'm jet lagged. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm like, this might be hard, but then you then go, okay, I've described how I am. That's how I am now. That's just be me. Like, this is me right now. The hardest part is when you have this idea how you're meant to be, but you're not feeling like that. So you've got the outer world, which is what the audience is seeing and you're projecting, and you got the inner world going, they're not married. You and your performance aren't married. It's like two different things. So it's awkward, and you're going, oh, does anyone know? Or, okay, I'm still here. I'm doing okay. They don't know. But when you take ownership of how you feel, you name it, and then you don't judge it to be good or bad or right or wrong or positive or negative to how you're going to present today. Because your only job when you present today is to give intention to your words, so the craft does the work for you. So that the level of craft will pick up the slack. So for the first 5-10 minutes, my voice will do most of the work for me while I'm finding my feet on stage or camera. But I'm allowed to be tired on stage. I don't have to pretend. I'm like, I'm tired. And if I have to, I'll frame that up to the audience and go, it's a long flight over from Australia to UK. I'm so jet lagged. Let's see how this goes. Could be a complete train wreck. Let's see how we go. The expectation is now removed from my shoulders. It's like I don't have to be anything now. I don't have to be anyone. Just this is how I'm at, and all I have to do today is share my wisdom.
And what happens? And then I want to maybe close with a question, but what happens when you just show up as who you are, connecting with yourself, how you're feeling right now, jet lag, tired, whatever's going on just before, and then you show up and you just really share how you're showing up and be so honest and authentic.
Yep.
If you didn't do that, that would be a gap. And the
Gap.
audience would feel that gap not being present. And what's really going on now? How's that? What is happening with the gap as you're showing up and sharing how you're just feeling right now?
Well, look, in the words that I would use is, you want your external world to be a fair representation of your inner world. You know, because your outer world is what the audience are seeing, but it's your inner world that the audience is feeling. So this is why I use horses in my work sometimes as well, because they're far better at calling fraud than I am, because they don't care about your feelings, and you suck it up and you find your way into marrying that inner world and the external world. But it's the internal, it's the authenticity that creates the connection. That's the connection, but it's the craft that enables the invisible dance with the audience. It's like, now I'm connected with them. What am I going to do? Where are we going to go with this? We're connected. I can feel the energy. I can feel that you're hanging on my words. I have you where I want you, because this is my job. This is my job. It's occupying the space and going, I'm the speaker. This is my job. I'm good at my job. And these people, being able to own it, are now in for a little ride. And there's that confidence from the audience to go, oh, this person knows what they're doing. You know what I mean? And does that make sense, Camilla? The craft. The craft is like, where do I want to take them today?
And you were just that craft. Tell me about this. What is that craft? Because it can mean something for you, can mean something for me, and something for the person who listens. But to you, what is that? What is craft for you?
Craft is multiple skills practiced over and over and over and over again until they become you. There's no separation. So they're happening automatically.
And in your space, when you talk about craft, being authentic, and then the craft is that the invisible dance, which is part of your signature program, is like being that invisible dance, dancing with the words. Then craft, what is that? If you want to say, like, okay, now go work with Andrew, like, what is that craft all about?
What can you just reframe that question?
So you mentioned, and I'm so curious about the craft. So the craft for you in your space that you dominate is that teaching other people on how to do that invisible dance with the words and embodying the how. That when you talk about craft, is that the image you hold in your head, or what is showing up for you as you're talking about craft?
The image I have is I give people the tools that I know will give them a level of confidence and the ability to seduce and direct their audience and get their message across. How they do that, they can either model, but what my gift, or that what I want to see from people, is that if it's a feeling and presenting as a feeling, like you're aware of, is once I guide them to the place where they feel that level of authenticity that they might not have felt before in front of people. So once they've felt that, it's like the flame lights inside. So I've lit the flame. Now they will be able to know the difference when the flame's not lit and when it's lit. So like you explaining earlier, is you know when you're pushing or projecting, and when the flame has gone out, and you come back and light it again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes
terrible
sense.
question. Does that make sense? Because that's either a yes or a no. But you know what I'm saying is I light the flame, so you know how it's meant to feel, and then I'll give you the blocks to get to lighting it. And now it's your job. And then the more you practice, the more that you're disciplined in your practice, I promise you will be in a way that you can weave your magic on the screen or on camera or on stage, wherever you need it. Yeah.
I love that. I love the image with the lighting the flame and the tools and the craft, and the more you practice. That is the craft.
Practice is the tough part, because that's a discipline, and discipline for me buys you freedom. But discipline's freedom.
You get to push through. The limiting beliefs, the fears, the comfort zone, right, to get to where you want to go next. I really love that. Oh, Andrew, I could go on and on. There's so many, but I want to wrap up. And just, if there's one piece of advice you want to give, let's say men who want to be better at pitching their ideas to the board, to the C-suite, even though there are some strong voices, what would she do, or what should she do? Your number one advice?
Your people are predominantly women, and my clientele is predominantly women, and they prefer this style of presenting over the structured, overly technical. They like the feeling and the connection. They like the idea of connecting and the feeling, and that's just my people. So where, and this is only in my experience,
Sure.
where women struggle more is occupying the space and not surrendering it back over. So the stage is yours, and it's yours. Hold it. Then it's when you start to get very intentional about the words you choose and allowing there to be space. And remember, the space between the words is just as potent as the words themselves. Right? So the space in between the words, take your time to articulate what you want. What do you want? And that's the part that I think my clients a lot struggle with, is asking for what they want, but also how they're asking for what they want. It seems to be like a question of, can I have it, instead of, this is what I want.
Sure. I see it as well. What an amazing piece of advice this. And I love that, is actually connecting with the audience, and then take time to connect and know what you want, rather than asking, can I have?
Yeah, well, it's in the tone of the voice. Even if you ask, this is what I want, but there's a fraction of a feeling that you're unsure that you can have it. It has to be this bone, it has to be bone deep. This is what I want. And sometimes a pitch can be so condensed and short because you just frame up what the hell is you want, and then going, this is what I want, or this is what I need to make this work. This is what I want. There's a sense of certainty in the voice, because people buy certainty. They don't buy maybe. They don't buy, this might work if you purchase this. For me, they buy certainty. I don't buy this car because it might work.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work when we're C-suite, right? It doesn't work. Or when we are the CEO and we're gonna be on stage and share something. We got to be like so assertive, but also getting the audience to understand and want to follow us, rather than actually think that we have already delivered, but then bugging why they haven't done it, because you haven't.
So it's not a commander. Well, you're on the same page. It's not a commander. I'm not commanding or dictating. It's you believe me, you trust me, because with this connection's there. I know we're here together, and this is what I need, or this is what I want. It's very definitive.
Yeah, it is. Andrew, it's wrapping up. Where can people go to find more out, read more about you, your offerings? Tell the audience, or you're free to tell the audience where you want them to go.
I'm on LinkedIn under Andrew Eggelton, and my website is andreweggleton.au. And I do have a Facebook group that is my container, that is the heart of presenting.
I saw that. What is the heart? I haven't applied to be a member, but what is that all about?
The heart of presenting is just a container where I have something called the hot seat. And the hot seat is, I do a 45-minute, I choose 2 people every month, and in real time, because I think it's a real, you have to be good at what you do to coach people live and put them on the hot seat, so to speak, and coach them live and guide them. Because if they don't get the results in that 45 minutes, everyone watching is like, oh, this doesn't work. So I pride myself on being able to put people on that seat, and I give them a famous speech. In fact, last couple of weeks ago, it was actually Dr. Seuss's "Oh, the Places You'll Go," believe it or not. Have you ever read that book, "Oh, the Places You'll Go"?
No.
Anyone who knows Dr. Seuss knows he has a very distinct, rhyming, fun way of looking at things. I've used Nelson Mandela's inaugural speech, just iconic speeches, because they're more intimidating. The more intimidating, the better, because you look at that speech and go, but I can hear Nelson Mandela saying that. How am I going to make that my own? So my job is for you to read it first time, cold, and then for me to start layering with tools, and just allowing the tools to do the work for you, and elevating how that feels. And every single person so far, touch wood, has nailed it. And you can tell, you can just tell. People get excited. They're like, oh wow, I can use my tools are very simple, super simple. It's not meant to be complicated.
And you're a super simple guy, but you're super authentic. You're super easy to have a conversation with, and we can go so deep. I really, really enjoyed having this conversation, Andrew. And thanks for sharing everything, that from your story to like learning to, I call it dance with the fear, and learning to dance with that, the invisible dance, with I think part of your signature program being you. Right?
Yeah.
I really, and that's the giving power or life to the how. I found that so beautiful. And you took me there when you talked about the warm blanket, but creating the connection, or build that connection with the how, when you actually whatever state that is, can just be in the team meeting, but still you have to convey and articulate a very important message, and you want your people to follow. It's about understanding the how, then the why and the what.
Yeah, the words creating a feel. The words evoking a feeling, like more that limbic part of the brain.
Yeah. And that's why it comes when we have to slow down. I think it's a have to. Must slow down and being so intentional with what we say.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
Being such an honor. What did you say? Sorry.
Thank you for having me. It's been a great conversation.
Yeah. Thanks, Andrew. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you are a woman ready to ascend in your leadership and in life, and are ready to unleash your full potential, check out our community, Project Olympus, at calbergcoaching.com/Olympus. And check out our website as well, www.calbergcoaching.com, for free resources, masterclasses, other events, and our amazing leadership challenge, Be More Impactful, to help you elevate your leadership, create more impact, and be that trusted advisor that dares to ask those bold questions that nobody else dare to ask. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I want to encourage you to listen to other episodes on our channel for continued inspiration. See you on the next episode. Bye for now.